miracle that happened, and that started with an example of the time of Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi had about 100 prophets in his yeshiva, and they were all being hunted by this king, wicked king Achav. And what happened was the prophet Ovadia divided the prophets into two groups and put them into two separate caves. And Hashem made this amazing miracle where out of nowhere, the Ovadia, who was actually Achav's servant, one of the servants, supplied them with food from the kitchen of the king. And this was a big miracle because they all survived, and this entire yeshiva filled with Eliyahu Hanavi's prophets were all saved. In this class, we're going to learn that something happened very similarly to the Mirrer Yeshiva. The Mirrer Yeshiva was founded pre-war in Poland, and they also have one in Flatbush. And basically, there was this student that was in this yeshiva who befriended a Dutch businessman by the name of Jan Zwartendijk. And he was the director of a plant in Lithuania. And basically what happened is around that time, both this Mr. Zwartendijk and his Jewish student, they had both been raised in the Netherlands, and they both really enjoyed soccer. And, ultimately what happened was this Mr. Zwartendijk went ahead and gave out close to 2,400 visas to these students from the Mirrer Yeshiva to escape to the island of Curaçao. And what happened was they were able to flee Poland, get through to Europe to Curaçao, and eventually they also had to make their way through Japan. And to do that, they had to go through this other, individual who was a vice consul to the Japanese Empire in Lithuania by the name of Shiun Sugihara. And it turns out that same individual went ahead and provided thousands of visas for them to eventually allow them to travel through Japan to get to this final destination of Curaçao. So all this was a crazy journey in order for them to escape. And eventually they were relocated by the Japanese government to Shanghai. And that wasn't it. That wasn't the end of it. In Shanghai, they ended up finding themselves in this vacant synagogue called Bitachon. This vacant synagogue had been built 20 years earlier by an individual named Silas Hardun, which had a shul big enough to accommodate 400 people. Now, people were wondering, why would this guy build a shul for 400 people in the middle of nowhere? I mean, there's not a big community in Shanghai at that time. But when he had mentioned that he was childless. He was an Iraqi Jew who was childless, very wealthy. And Mr. Hardun, who founded the synagogue, actually had a dream from his deceased father who told him, hey, you know what? You have to build this shul, and it's got to sit 400 people. Nobody could understand at the time. He passed away. And later on, after he passed away, the answer was very clear. This yeshiva that was built by this Mr. Hardun, just because, was the yeshiva that kept the Mirrer Yeshiva students that fled from Poland for a full 6 years. And so the same way that the Mirrer Yeshiva students survived completely intact, the prophets at the time of Eliyahu Hanavi had survived. So just imagine, all this was coordinated, and we can tell that sometimes we don't understand how things happen or why things happen. It could be that you're planting the seeds in whatever it is you're doing right now for something that is to take place in 10, 20, 30 years from now. You never know. So if ever something is happening and you're in a situation where you work yourself working very hard, or you don't feel like maybe the fruits of your effort are all there or all seen or all noticed, just remember the story of Eliyahu Navi and remember the story of the Mirrer Yeshiva students. Have yourself a great day.